In 1783, a court in London heard a case about a shipment that never arrived. Not because it was stolen, not because it sank. The owners said the cargo had to be destroyed on purpose to save the ship. The court didn't ask whether that was right. It only asked one question: who has to pay for it? The cargo in question was 132 human beings, and the case, Gregson v. Gilbert, would become one of the strangest documents in the history of British law. Not a murder trial, but a paperwork dispute. To understand how that was possible, you have to understand the system that made it possible in the first place. In September 1781, a ship called the Zong left the coast of West Africa carrying far more captive Africans than it was built to hold, over 440 people, packed in well past capacity. Because more people on board meant more potential profit at the other end. By late November, the ship had drifted off course into an area of the Atlantic sailors called the doldrums, where the wind can die out for days. Disease had already killed dozens on board. Water supplies were, according to the crew, running low. The captain made a decision. Rather than let the sick continue to die naturally, the crew began throwing captives overboard alive in batches over the course of about a week. This is not a story about the deaths themselves. It's a story about what happened next, because what happened next reveals something far more disturbing about the system underneath. By the late 1700s, transatlantic slave voyages were financed the same way any risky shipping venture was, through marine insurance. Ship owners paid underwriters, private investors who accepted a fee in exchange for covering losses, and if cargo was lost at sea, the underwriters paid out. Here's the part that made the Zong case possible. Enslaved people, under the law of the time, were classified as cargo, insurable property, the same legal category as sugar, timber, or livestock. And marine insurance law had a specific clause called general average if part of a cargo had to be deliberately sacrificed to save the rest of the ship, for instance, throwing goods overboard during a storm. The loss could be claimed and split among the investors. That clause was written for barrels and crates. It was never meant to apply to people. But because the law treated captive Africans as property rather than people, it did. When the Zong reached Jamaica, its owners filed an insurance claim, roughly £30 per person, arguing the deaths were a necessary loss, the same as jettisoning cargo in a storm. The underwriters refused to pay. They argued the crew had made navigational errors, that the ship had mismanaged its own water supply, and pointed to records showing hundreds of gallons of water were still on board when the ship finally docked. So this became, legally, an argument about whose mistake it was, not whether killing people was a crime. The first jury sided with the ship's owners. The insurers appealed. The case reached the Court of King's Bench under Lord Chief Justice Lord Mansfield in 1783, and on appeal, new evidence about the water supply persuaded the court to order a retrial. Not because the deaths were murder, because the paperwork didn't add up. No one was ever criminally charged. But the case became public, and abolitionist campaigners, including Granville Sharp, used the court records to show the British public something they couldn't unsee: an entire legal and financial system built to treat human lives as a category of property, with a price attached and a claims process to match. The Zong case didn't end the slave trade, but it became one of the pieces of evidence the abolition movement pointed to for decades afterward, proof, in the trade's own paperwork, of exactly what the system was. The captain who gave the order was never tried for murder. The court case that followed was, on paper, about money. Not because the people involved didn't know what had happened, but because the system had already answered that question for them, years before the ship ever left port. The Zong wasn't an exception to how the slave trade worked. It was the system working exactly as designed. That's the story of the Zong, not an isolated horror, but a system working exactly as it was designed to. If you want more of these mechanisms uncovered, the ledgers, the laws, the paperwork behind the trade, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. What part of the system should we dig into next? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next archive.